Yeah, wonderful. Absolutely. We wanted to hear the sort of work you guys are doing in totality, I would say, in the region, because having seen the work you are doing, it is always a pleasure to have a fresh perspective. So Pooja, welcome all once again. And as mentioned, good to have you with us. Okay.
Thank you, Gaurav. Thank you so much.
Last but not the least is Palak Tiwari Gaikwad. Palak is, in fact, running two schools. If I'm right, has an establishment which are fairly old school in Jabalpur, in terms of, when I say old, in terms of the legacy institution they are running in the city of Jabalpur, Madhya Pradesh, which is by the name of Little Kingdom. They also have, I believe, a school in Gwalior, which is a new school, new establishment. I believe it's a Billabong there. It's a Billabong franchisee there. So these are the two institutions which Palak is overseeing in her capacity and she is also a parenting coach. I have known her work in that area as well, and she's a very passionate parenting coach, doing a fabulous job in that discipline as well. And I believe if I look at my panel completely, they are not to say that Dr. Mandal is old, but I'm sure this is a fairly young panel which I am today working with. So fairly young perspective, and we would love to balance it out with Mandal's ma'am's experience. So one side is experience managed with a very young, I would say, panel. Okay, and by no means Sushma ma'am should feel offended that I'm trying to put her in one other basket. But having said this, we'll have a lovely conversation.
One should accept the fact. I mean, there's no harm in accepting the fact. Yeah,
Okay, so we'll kickstart the conversation for today. As I had mentioned earlier, this is a very conversational format, ladies and gentlemen. We've always known while we work at IPN, we try to make it as lively as possible. Hence, this is not a webinar format of Zoom. This is actually a meeting format that anyone at any point in time can actually chip in with their opinion or their suggestion. However, for the want of a better, smooth sort of I would say, process, we will first let our speakers speak in. Once they have spoken, we'll open it up for a major part of our conversation for Q&A. All my speakers are obviously going to present their own perspective at what they are doing at their respective level in their respective institutions. At the cost of repeating myself, my leaders are from the cities of, they're bringing an experience of two major states of the country, Madhya Pradesh and Uttar Pradesh. Cities will be a little more because Gautamji has three institutions across, I think, 3 states now. So I would say we'll start the conversation. We'll have them speaking. We'll have them their perspective shared, and after that, we'll take up as many questions as you have. And I'm sure we'll try to do this in the next 90 odd minutes. Okay. I will kickstart the conversation with Dr. Mandal to start with. As I mentioned, the sequence is Dr. Mandal, followed by Mr. Gautam. Pooja goes in third, and last but not the least will be Palak. Okay, Dr. Mandal, over to you. Let's do this. Yeah.
Okay. Now, the formal good evening to all present here and fellow members, fellow speakers. I would love to hear the youngsters, as Gaurav already mentioned, that I'm quite old. So I accept this as an honor. So like in Kanpur, and we have quite 8 schools associated together, and we work on a common platform. So when we started with, suddenly things came up and we started working on it, and gradually we moved to online complete portal. MCQ was very easy, but MCQ was not sufficient enough. Gradually, when we realized that we have to continue with this online, then we moved on to the subjective phase wise. We conducted half yearly with proper supervision so that, but during this, we realized that children have taken everything in the comfort zone. And instead of, taking all these things in a very positive manner, we started getting certain things which we never appreciated in the school, and we checked upon. That was the cheating and sharing, because this device and the technology has supported them, taking out the answers from the Google, making a WhatsApp group, all these things happened. But nevertheless, children were at home and they had to be given that empathetic approach. So it's fine. And the best part is that the parents acknowledged, accepted, and children also accepted that we have done this. So that is more than enough for us, that at least they accepted their follies and they will be careful. So that was one thing which we wanted, that morale has to be high, whatever it is. We can't be dishonest using this pandemic as a device. So that was one thing which I was hammering upon regularly. And even for 9 to 12, we are gradually doing away with online. Initially, we had live classes from the school the day we got open. Then we switched to alternative 10, 12, offline few days, then online, so that there is no node on the network. And my school being in Kent, we always have a challenge of the network. So gradually, and finally, we decided to have our unit test and pre-prelims as offline. And trust me, we are running this offline exam at 100% attendance for 9 to 12. So they are not given an option because they are hanging around everywhere. So that was one debate with few parents, and we discussed about it, that if you can go around everywhere, then school is not the place where corona is waiting for you. So we need to come out of it. But yes, we took care of everything, 12 children in a room, and then different entry exit points, their parking of vehicle at different points, so that any point of time there is no commotion. That was one thing which we worked upon. But it's very difficult for us to retain children stay apart. It's so much normal for them. They have come to school after so many days, so they prefer to sit on the lawns in the ground, and they don't want to go home because they want to spend time with their friends. And asking them to stay away from each other is Herculean task for us these days, because now everything is becoming normal for them. Initially they were more careful, but gradually, but yes, we keep reminding, we make sure, and all over the school we have various teachers on duty so that they check by mistake, even there is no mistake. So that way we are working on it. And then the major challenge what we face, there are two things which I felt I have my full concern for all the mothers. Their work has gone up, fathers are moving away for the work, but mothers have to do house chores and looking after the children. So more or less it's a frustration kind of a situation for so many parents, and they literally request even pre-primary, please call children to the school, man. They are going everywhere, why not they are coming to the school? So this is from the parents side. And even the teachers, one-on-one counseling, we had regular interaction with the parents. We can call it as a PTM, virtual PTM, almost 1.5 months. And we took feedback from the parents. They suggested certain measures, so we kept incorporating. But at every point of time, we were trying to, through the teachers, of course, I have a wonderful team of the teachers, and they were trying to be understanding and try to help each and every child. So by and large, it is 24/7 school available for them, but nobody got, irritated, and we tried to help them out so that they take up the technology. Now, the major challenge which is bothering me is they have become so used to of this technology, and bringing them back to the school and making them sit in a disciplined manner is going to be a very difficult task. To make sure that they wake up early morning, our classes started at 7:15 in the summers, and now 8:30 or 9 o'clock because of the device issue. Working parents might take the devices along with them. So we had to refrain ourselves to a certain number of hours in the morning. And right now they are having unit tests, which is happening now because the parents have come back. So evening slot is available for them for the test. So, that device issue was there. So we continued having classes in the morning so that they have a habit of getting up in the morning. Right. That is one thing. And now for 3 hours, they are studying 5 periods a day, 6 periods a day, not more than that. And then bringing back to the school, making them sit at a place for a longer duration, of course, is going to be very tiresome, and maybe it will take 2-3 months. That is one challenge. Second thing is that they have become very easy. As comfort zone, they stay home for 1 month during vacation time, and when they come back to school, it takes almost 15 days for all of us to make them settle and bring them back to the work mode. But now they have been here at home almost for a year. So that will be very difficult for the children to settle down in this new normal. It's easier said than done. It's easy for us, okay, they will come back and they will enjoy it, but it will not be easy. Supervising them, having school in the shift, and with this new normal, 20 children, lesser number of students, the social distancing. So all these parameters with limited building, limited premise, will take a lot of effort for us to plan and design that how like every day all children will not be able to come. Maybe a few days we are calling primary. By the time they settle down and things become normal, so maybe this session will go like this, that every day we are not calling, we are working on the hybrid mode, few days online, few days offline, so that the learning continues. And second thing is their writing practice, which I feel that whatever we ask them to write, that holding a pencil has become a problem. So it feels that we have gone back 2-3 years, and then we have to teach and train them for the basics which we had pulled them to a level so that they become a confident. That is another thing.
So Dr. Mandal, if I may just quickly interject, I'm sorry I'm doing that. Are you saying that one of your priorities now, because by the looks of it, I gather that you are mostly doing unlearning part. I mean, as in they have learned a certain kind of behavior in the past 9 to 10 months, which they
Yes.
have become a little more comfortable with, obviously, because they are very comfortable with technology. So you are
Huh.
saying that one of
That's
the
good on
topmost,
one part. But coming back to the real life is again a challenge. Ultimately, we
correct,
have to come back to our
correct,
real and normal
correct.
life.
So you as an educationalist or as a leader of the institution, one of the priorities for you
Yes.
is becoming as to how do your possibly your system
Yeah.
accept these changes which have come to the new normal, if I may say. That's one of the priorities. Okay, well, please go ahead. You were saying.
Yeah, so that they start settling down. I mean, this particular situation is there, and this thing has taught us and children to become more tech savvy. But everything in extreme has its own disadvantages. So too much of technology also has given them a lot of comfort, texting and clicking a picture and giving them the PDF instead of writing a lot. And at times the parents and the siblings have written their answer scripts, which we got to know. So basically these things are negative in a grooming part. But anyways, whatever the situation is, we have to accept that. But these things have to be taken away from the child for the better future and a longer perspective, because this is a phase and this
Correct.
phase will go. So naturally, whatever they have learned in this phase, it has to be eradicated, which is negative, and whatever positive they have learned, it has to be accepted and
Correct.
acknowledged, so that they
Correct.
go ahead with the positive part. So that, and secondly is that they have become, when you stay home, you become very free, you speak whatever you feel like. And school is a place which is a formal setup, where we teach children what to speak, how to speak, when to speak, at what volume, at what pace. All these things, they are away for so many period of time, and whatever we do in online 2 hours, 3 hours, it's a very limited time for us. So naturally their mindset has changed, the way they communicate has changed. Recently I was coming up to my home and I spoke to one child, and the way child reacted, I just said कि okay, अगर मम्मा ने बोला है ऐसा तो मम्मा से बात करते, इतना गुस्सा होने वाली क्या बात है? A stranger child, a small child is replying me like this, इसमें इतना गुस्सा होने वाली क्या बात है? मैंने ऐसा क्या कह दिया? I mean, it was something, so that is one thing where, we speak, but we don't know what to speak and where we have to draw a line. Which, another thing which we have to, work upon with the children, and we can't blame them, because whatever isolation they had been into, maybe it's a frustration, whatever limitations, because when they come to the school, they play physically, they are tired, so their energy is channelized, but that energy is restored, it has not come out. So naturally it will come out in some more negative aspect, which
Correct.
mothers are bearing. So I have spoken to various mothers, and yes, a lot of respect to those ladies who are running home and managing their children, their tests throughout. And of course they were sending children to the schools, so obviously those 6 hours were free, but now it is 24/7 when you are there dealing, so it's not an easy task for them. But yes, our work they are doing, so that is another challenge which I feel will be difficult for us, to take away from them. They want to come to the school, but if you ask them closely, they are happy away from the school. This online is okay, because their free time is available with them. No, they don't have to get up early, so that these are the things which they have become used to it. So
Correct.
taking out from them, that will take more time than to teaching them any lesson. These
Okay.
things are, yeah.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
And
So
then grooming part, physical activity, their activities, because school is a place where they learn hell lot of things, and that is one area where they enjoy, where they are free, they are away from the books, they are doing a lot of activities, all those dance, drama, sports, competitions. So that was one interest. Even senior school is coming to the school with the condition, ma'am, you will be allowed to play for 1 hour. So they prefer to come the days when they have the physical education period, and they play for an hour and then they go home. So that's fine with us, that we take
correct.
care of all precautions, but they're happy. So that happiness is coming back to the school by meeting friends. So these are the things which we feel that we need to be more careful, and we need to be more understanding, sensitive, and caring for the child who will be coming after, so many days. So
Okay.
we may have to change our perspective even. It's again back to square one, and we have to start afresh again. Whatever we did in the past is something gone by.
Correct.
So
Correct. So I think what I can gather from what you are obviously you're sharing with us is that there are some very obvious challenges, because you are at a stage that you have opened up, your physical classrooms are now coming in, So I think there are obvious reflection through your talk is that there are a lot of challenges right now in terms
Children
of
are not able to write. They are not able to sit for 2 and 3 hours to write.
As you mentioned, yes. So these are very obvious challenges which every leader, I'm sure, is making a note of, that they will really actually gain out of the sort of, they can actually now preempt, if I may say, that these things can happen, right? Because purely of your experience. So thank you very much. I think we will relay it back to you if you have a question around that, which is a specific challenge example. Thank you for those opening remarks. I move on to Mr. Gautam. Mr. Gautam, over to you. Just to circle back, I am again trying to address, or I am looking at what, as a school leader, are top 10 priorities at the school level. Over to you, Mr. Gautam. Yeah.
Thank you, Gaurav, and a formal good evening, and good evening to all my fellow speakers, teachers who have logged into this platform today. I am Gautam Rajgaria, Pro Vice Chairman at Delhi Public School, Varanasi, Nasik, and Lava Nagpur. It's really a privilege to be here amongst fellow educators, deliberating on the way forward and reflecting on the year that has gone by. 2020 will be etched in history for having caused a huge amount of disruption in a lot of fields, but it will be remembered as a golden year in the very fabric of teaching learning in India, or probably in the world. So this year has really taught us so many things and made us look in directions where we did not even know those directions. The teacher was the sage on the stage, and she would speak for hours and hours, and the students listened, mugged up the topics, and they moved on. But that has all changed. You ask anybody who has taught online, and they will tell you that the most engaging classrooms have been the ones where the teacher has done the least amount of talking and where there has been maximum collaboration amongst the students, sharing of ideas. And that is exactly what we as educators are meant to do. It is us that we are supposed to just show the path, and the children have to kind of take that discussion onwards. And there is this beautiful quote, and I'd like to share that with all of you. The best teachers are those who show you where to look, but don't tell you what to see. So 2020 came to us as a blessing in disguise in so many ways, because it's really made us relook at our teaching learning practices. I remember having this conversation with our teachers in Varanasi, where there were n number of network issues, and there still are network issues today. And I know my teachers in Varanasi work extremely hard, getting up really early in the morning, ensuring that the assignments are through to the students, and they are checking those assignments before the network kind of starts falling apart. And like Shushma ma'am said, the UP network connections are a real nightmare. So it was jittery days when we started off, but the team pulled along, and that has been something that has been phenomenal for us. So coming to the point where I would like to highlight 3 or 4 priorities for us for this year. My first and most fundamental priority will be to ensure that no student is left behind when they join school. And when I say no student left behind, I just don't mean it academically. It is ensuring that we are taking care of every child's needs, be it emotionally, be it socially, be it physically. I mean, we as a school must encourage and identify the varied needs in the students and encourage their individuality. Mental well-being in students is going to be a very important thing when they return to the school. And to ensure that this plan is well executed, there is going to be a lot of teacher training and development. Capacity building workshops and trainings for our teachers is going to happen. It has already started while we were in the lockdown phase, and I'm sure this will continue in 2021. We all know what a good teacher can do and the way that she can change the classroom. And teacher training is something that we are going to focus on extremely when we move forward into the physical classroom or in the blended learning as well. Now, this leads us to a very important point, and that is giving onus and voice to students for their own learning. Gaurav, you might have, you remember going to your school days in the PTMs and how the report cards were handed out. They were almost like pink slips if you're not a good student. And the onus of learning was not on us. It was a dialogue between the teacher and the out of this conversation, and it came as a scorecard to him, literally. So we've changed that. We're now doing something that is called as a development discussion. And in the development discussion, the teacher and the students set up goals for themselves. So the teacher and the students will together set up a goal for the student, the academic and the non-academic goal for that. And the teacher works with the student to help them achieve these goals. Now, these goals are very tangible, precise, and achievable goals. The student really feels that there is somebody working with them for their goal, and there is voice and choice that is given to the student when we are doing that. So that makes it extremely motivating for the child to go to school, work with the teacher on that. My second priority will be to ensure that the implementation of the NEP 2020 is done and is done properly. I'm sure a lot of schools have started implementing the said guidelines. One of our priority and focus areas in this would be to ensure that we are imparting experiential education to our children. And when I say experiential education, we are already working and started off with project-based learning for our children. Project-based learning is not making projects or models for the children, but project-based learning is actually asking the right kind of questions and answering those questions through experiential endeavors, which could be class deliberations, discussions, researches, collaboration, or community activities, where the learning happens by doing. And the child, once he does that, he remembers that for life, because the outcomes is something that he has really experienced it. So that has been blended, and that is going to be a part of our curriculum going forward. Two very important things that children learn when they do experiential projects is collaboration and teamwork. And these are 21st century skills that we want our children to have. Students at DPS work in teams of 4 to 6, and they kind of wade through how to work in a team. And when you go to a corporate or any company, you don't have a heterogeneous or a homogeneous mix of people. You would be thrown up into any team and having different kind of behaviors. So from a young age, you want to imbibe values in children. And so through our experiential projects, this is one of the underlying learnings that we want children to do. Behavioral learnings that they should do is teamwork and collaboration. Also, our main focus is to let students experience the joy of learning, and in the process become thinkers who question the convention and find solutions to the problems that humanity is facing. And one of them is climate change. And climate change is a very, very big problem that we all are facing today. So our students have become a lot more sensitive towards Mother Nature, and they are now going up and asking the right kind of questions and starting campaigns and awareness campaigns, to spread awareness about the problems climate change is our world is facing right now with respect to climate change. So we see that students have taken the onus once they have kind of experienced through their learnings what is happening around the world. So these are two very important things that we are focusing on. One being no student should be left behind, and second is our NEP implementation, in which focus will be on experiential learning for our students through project-based learning. Lastly, this year for us is going to be a year wherein a lot of blended learning, in-depth technological implementation, and different ways of assessment will be in focus. Assessments, as we know, are a key aspect in any educational environment. They give feedback to both the learner and the teacher. And we believe in continuous formative assessments. It will be interesting to see how technology plays a role in assessments. We've seen that while we were in the lockdown, there are many companies that came up giving us solutions for testing platforms and other things. And this is only the tip of the iceberg. It is going to get much better as we move forward, and exciting times ahead with AI coming in. This is going to be one of those years which are going to shape how assessments are going to be done in schools. And we are excited to work with some of these great companies that are creating AI-based solutions. One of those companies that I work very closely with gives pinpoint accuracy on where the problem with the student is in respect to the topic. So let us say we take an examination, the report card is generated instantly, and you can, basis of that report card, pinpoint and say that, okay, 30% of the class has not understood fractions. So do we need to go back and reteach fractions?
Correct.
So our focus is going to be technology implementation to enhance quality of education. Also, the feedback that the teacher gets basis of this kind of reporting is that she knows that, okay, I need to reteach this, or these are the kind of questions that the students are not able to kind of understand. So they haven't got the concept, they've just mugged it up, or they've just kind of, tried to answer one kind of question. So technology is going to open up those doors for us going forward. That is going to be something very, very interesting. Also, I think this is extremely an important year if you are a learner, if you are ready to adapt, if you're ready to be open to ideas. And our teachers have embraced this change in a matter of 14 days. They kind of got onto the bandwagon with online classes. So really kudos to the spirit and the learner spirit actually in the teaching fraternity. I always say this and I can't thank them enough for having taken on this mantle and an uphill task and done something that is really, really marvelous. There can be sides where parents say that, this is not the right kind of education, or online is not good, or face to face is better. I mean, there is no question that there is no match to face. But given the uphill task that we had, and I know this, and I speak for my teachers, that they had 95% attendance in their classrooms just because they managed to change the way they were teaching in their classrooms. They engaged their students, they asked them the right kind of things, they connected with them, they shared their problems, they shared their emotions. And children, when they went to the classroom, they felt that we feel these 2.5 or 3 hours is a sense of joy for us. We get to see our friends and stuff. So kudos to their spirit. I'll just close my talk with a message to the teachers. 2021 is a special year if you're a learner. Keep learning, keep growing, keep measuring what you do, because you're not competing with anybody else, but with yourself. Be a better version today of what you were yesterday. Jai Hind. Thank you so much.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Gautam. As I was mentioning in my opening remarks as well, that this is the fresh perspective of our, I would say, education system, which all of us trying to bring. But you have brought in a couple of very interesting dimensions. I have a few couple of questions which are very I think you will, given you are in the management core there. Firstly, one is, while we talk about teacher training in any institution, I'm just curious to understand, do the management now at India at least have come up that stage that they have a certain percentage of their overall disposable budget, example, with respect to, for example, in your institution, because you have 3 lovely institutions and you have a fairly big number of students as well, do you have a percentage of, say, XYZ 5%, 10% of your overall budget on the teacher and development part of it, example? How do you guys do about doing it? I would love to hear that from you. Yeah.
Okay, so I'll share something very interesting with you. There is no budget per se.
Okay.
If a teacher comes up and says, I want a training on this, and this is at XYZ institution, which is costing this much, we would assess that, yes, the teacher is interested and would be willing to give those many hours. And yes, she's allowed to go in for that. The teacher also, to show commitment, is pitching a certain amount, percentage of that, but the school wholeheartedly encourages the teachers to go in for the training program. Plus, what I would like to highlight is that teacher training is not a function of budget or money. One has to understand that. The school itself is such a live wire with so many people inside the school, with so many teachers inside the school. You really don't need a big budget to kind of train your teachers. Mm-hmm. All you need is a bunch of very motivated people who will take on the mantle, and you need a system to be created where everybody is coming on the platform to learn. Okay. So even a trainee teacher in my school can impart some training that she has, and she gets an opportunity. And we have something which is called as our Champions of Change Fridays. So every Friday, a teacher kind of comes on stage, and all our 3 school teachers are there. And what she did in this week or month, which was amazing. So we started this off as a platform to display tools that they were using, because we were rushed into the online and a lot of teachers did not know about tools. But it has now moved into pedagogical practices, classroom management, behavior, child psychology. So you really don't need a budget. Let me tell you this misconception that anybody has in mind that, for teacher training, you need a big budget. You really don't. You need an open heart and a clear mind that, yes, we are aligned towards teacher development. And I don't, as management, have to push my teachers to go in that direction. We are just creating a system. Our teachers are so motivated, or anybody is so motivated for personal growth in any sphere. They just need a platform which says that, yes, we can do this. And there is nothing known as no, you cannot. So, I mean, that's for us. As I speak to you, there is a training calendar which has been prepared. Our team of teachers internally train each other, irrespective of seniority, and they take this up beautifully. Even a new trainee teacher is training somebody on communication skills or email etiquettes.
Correct.
You would have a physics teacher who has 25 years of experience taking care of, how thermodynamics works and how we can integrate that in mathematics for our class. So it happens like that. I mean, we are not setting aside a budget.
Fantastic. No, I get that. Fantastic. So as I said, this is the beauty of this conversation, that I can pick your mind and I can get the answer from you, which the way you are thinking. Okay, so and the other question, I'll take it up at the last, which is actually, while you mentioned that there is a fantastic feedback mechanism which we, and I always believe that was something which was lacking, at least in our times, and I can safely say that we were almost at the same bracket of institution time. That our teacher used to give us solid feedback about us, which is like our PTM used to be nightmare, it's a tough time for a student like us. But if we had to give a feedback about their teacher, then it's a very Herculean task. Then it is like directly go to the principal. Now, who the hell goes to the principal at that age 8 for that matter? No one does. So having said this, I think that's a wonderful perspective. We'll deliberate on that a little more. But I now move on to our next speaker, Ms. Pooja Pantri. Pooja, over to you.
Yeah, thank you, Gaurav, and a very good evening to one and all. Once again, as my pre-speaker said, the formal good evening. And yes, putting things in perspective, Gaurav, I would like to just put the frame of reference in place. It is the top 10 priorities as school leaders we're looking forward to
Absolutely.
for 2021. And that is, of course, post-pandemic perspective that we're looking at.
Correct.
So, the first and the foremost thing which has been talked about, and you just mentioned it today, and Dr. Sushma and Mr. Gautam also talked about it, is the new normal. I think that is going to be the first priority with each and every leader, that how do we adjust and adapt ourselves to the new normal, as we call it. Definitely, we are going back to the offline, because that is what the norm is. We would like to treat the COVID as an exception, definitely. And but all said and done, will things get ever back to exactly the way they were? I look at it as some, organ surgery. That yes, we do get back to normal, but then is the organ again the same? I don't think so. So there are, there are certain do's and don'ts, and there are certain things which are definitely there to stay. They leave an indelible mark on us, and that is what the pandemic would do to our education system. So with the offline, I'm very sure the online is there going to stay. And as we talked about, the word hybrid or blended learning is going to be the order of the day. What I am curious to look at is the right proportion. How do we exactly implement and execute it? The talking about it in concept has been there since July onwards. We've been doing that in sessions. But what is to be seen is that how would we actually implement it, execute it? What is the correct proportion we would arrive at? And I think there will be a lot of external factors which would be governing it, other than the central guidelines, which we keep getting from time to time from the CBSE. And of course, then there are the state government directives, like MP, of course, we get a lot of directives. Palak is here, she would know. And other than that, the local demographics will have a large role to play in that. What kind of student group are you catering to? How much of an offline are you going to keep? How much of an online are you going to keep? How are you going to blend them? the time constraints, the device constraints, and so many other things. So I believe it is definitely going to be a large onus on each and every leader as to how they are going to take it forward in their institution, taking care of all these external factors. And definitely for me as a school leader coming from Shivpuri, definitely this is going to be my priority number one, as we're looking forward to our opening in July. And we're all hoping for this rosy scenario when our gates open and all our students like come rushing in. How exactly are we going to tackle that practically? And with what proportion are we going to mix the blended? That is definitely going to be the priority number one. Next on my mind is the behavioral consequences, because of late I've been involved with counseling a lot. And this is definitely one aspect which cannot be left untouched. I would like to brace myself for what to expect. Could there be increased aggressiveness in the students? Typically talking about the middle school and the primary. See, children, the way they are not supposed to be confined the way they were. This was something very, very unnatural, what happened to them. And then now suddenly when they find these open premises and all the time to themselves, a dedicated sports period, of course, all this is wonderful and we all are looking forward to it. But could there be instances of an increased aggressiveness in students? I would definitely want to keep my sports department and of course the entire teaching staff to be aware of this and be braced and be patient and do not treat it as a behavioral indiscipline occurrence, but rather see it in the light of a post-pandemic after effect. So this is definitely one thing in my mind. And it has got a lot to do with the pent-up energy they have got inside the close confines of their homes, in the flats in the metro cities. Even Shivpuri, for that matter, doesn't boast of two large houses. And lot of pent-up energy in them, which needs a physical release. All said and done, all online classes, nothing can take away from the physical release. So yes, we will have to brace ourselves for that. Another thing, as Dr. Mandal also brought this forward, was a distraction. In a physical classroom, do I expect my student to be more distracted than normal? Otherwise, also their attention spans are hardly anything to begin with, kids the way they are. But now with the online, it's become so easy. You have to just off your video and then you can have a parallel universe running behind your back. So you can be talking to people, you can be eating something and everything going on. And for the senior students, trust me, they have got multiple windows open. There's a Facebook there, there's a WhatsApp there, there's a Snapchat, and whatever remains of their attention goes to that poor teacher, who's like howling their lungs out. So that's how they've been doing it. And there is no way you can check them. So what happens now for those good 40 minutes when that child is right under the nose of the teacher and you're expecting their undivided attention? Would you get that? I doubt. So expect them to be more distracted. Expect them to be restless in the class. And again, the teachers will have to brace themselves up. It will take some time. It will take some time till they get used to the school format, which was definitely their part of life at one point of time. But now with all these derailing happen, we'll need to be patient with them. And lastly, from the kids' point of view, again, it has been brought up, shying away from hard work or sheer work for that matter. We not only as educators, most of us as parents also would know, you have kids, how much of work are they actually putting in? And see, Indian education system puts the student through grind, all said and done. There is a lot of work, there are projects, assignments, classwork, homework, and there is a particular grind through which they go through before they appear for that 3-hour arduous paper. Again, it's one of the longest we write in the world for that matter. So now the students are totally out of that. I don't think so. They even would sit and write for 3 minutes, forget 3 hours. It's so they definitely are in a habit of shying away from hard work. So putting them back on track, making them do their classwork and their homework religiously. I expect a lot of late submissions. The teachers should brace themselves up. Do not expect them to complete their homeworks in time, submit their assignments. So these are the things we need to brace ourselves. And as a leader, definitely it comes on my priority number 2 after I've adjusted to the new normal learning. Another thing, one aspect which actually had skipped even my mind, as I told you, I've been into counseling for quite a while. We attended a session with Dr. V.S. Ravindran, and I made my staff also into it because a behavioral aspect is very, very important. And a very interesting perspective. Dr. Ravindran said that we're all centered around the child. Of course, we have to be, but he says, minded when it comes to adaptability, children would any time supersede the adult. All said and done. So it's not about crisis management. We don't expect it from them, but crisis adaptability is something where the children are definitely going to supersede us. So what you as leaders have to watch out for is your staff, something which nobody is talking about. The teachers again come from various backgrounds, especially where I am from Shivpuri. They have struggles of their own. They have their own challenges. And many of them, the ones who've been senior for 3-4 decades of teaching, it took a lot from them to adapt to the online. You know, many of them actually created their email IDs for the first time because they had to log into Microsoft Teams and learned these various tools of technology. And now that they are braced in the system, hats off to them and hats off to all this leadership galaxy here, that we could definitely pull this off. But now going back to the school, the teachers have also, mind you, adjusted to a certain framework. Sitting in their homes, adjusted their timetables like that with their students' own routines. Now coming back to a school, is it going to put them under some anxiety? I think yes. Are the stress levels going to be high? I think yes, definitely. And dealing with a class of 40, life blooming students brimming with energy, and as we've already talked about their behavioral problems, no timely submissions, there could be aggression on the field, there could be distraction in the class, the teacher is definitely going to be fatigued. So they have to be mentally prepared for this. We as leaders have to be mentally prepared for this. And I believe that's my personal opinion that let us for us that we usually have to be, there's no other way out, and let us maybe extend an olive branch for some time, for some duration, for our staff also. I think this time around the teachers would also need some hand holding on our parts, other than of course the students. So this is going to be definitely one of my priority as a leader, and one perspective which has largely gone unnoticed. Another thing is the community outreach. Though now I believe most of the schools and most of the leadership is very sensitized towards the community outreach, but the pandemic sort of brought it on the surface, you know, almost like a open wound. And we saw the other day, I posted in our school social media handle related to some event, it's skipping my mind, that crisis spares none. And that is true. I mean, right from the names as glamorous as the big Bachchan to anybody who's typically unknown in a Thakurpura area, which is right behind my school. And crisis spares none. But the extent up to which it would affect people is different. Definitely. There are some who totally lost their lives. There are some who lost their livelihoods. And there are some who had a lot of things at stake as compared to the more privileged and the fortunate ones. So, but the larger message is that we have to not lose sight of the fact that we are all in this together. After all, the concept of coexistence is something which, suddenly this pandemic has brought to the surface. So eventually, we cannot be just confined within these concrete walls of our schools, and it should not be like my school versus your school, and my admissions versus your admissions, and my result versus your result. I am sure there is a larger vision and a larger picture which comes to the surface in this hour of crisis, and that is we all need to coexist, not just the schools amongst themselves. Of course, we are one big fraternity, but also the ones who are the lesser privileged ones. So community outreach is big on my mind, and I am very blessed to be with the management who hold this philanthropic view, and that is their way of running the school. So definitely I am in a very happy space. But again, I believe it is a thing for each one of us that definitely we need to coexist. There is no other way out, and nobody said that COVID is going to be the last kind of a calamity we faced. I mean, of course, I do not wish to be a pessimist, but then of course that's the way it is. Life is so unpredictable. Who could have thought about it in 2019? No ways. So we had such high hopes and such visions and dreams, and everybody else I must have had for 2020. We'll do this and we'll do that, and then what happened? At the end of it, we were all surviving and struggling for the breath. So life definitely has its own ways of teaching us. The next priority is a little tricky one, and that is bridging the trust deficit. And that is between us, the schools, heads, principal, teaching, non-teaching, and the parent. It is very unfortunate and quite amusing actually also that all factors remaining constant, the school remains the same. The child is very much enrolled in your systems. The teachers don't change. Principal is the same. The parents are the same. One thing happened, and then what happened? What happened suddenly that we were on two sides of the fence? It was suddenly like us versus them. Why this trust deficit? Why this doubt? Why should it ever have occurred? So as soon as circumstances change, you'd see, even if nothing changes, sort of everything changes. Those were the parents who chose to put their children in our hands. They decided that they want their child's admission in our school. Of course, nobody can force admissions. And they were the ones who were high praises for the school, and they thought we were the best, and that is why they chose to entrust their child's future with us. And then this calamity happens suddenly, and somehow the perspective changes. And the same parent who would be so looking forward to hear from a teacher would now maybe shy away from picking up the phone of the same teacher, thinking that are they reminding them for the due fee? And I believe that this is, I am not feeling this in isolation, because I have been talking to my colleagues and friends, otherwise in informal discussions. This runs through, whether it is a metro city, whether it is a big town, small town, whatever.
Pooja, you'll have to unmute yourself. I by mistake, actually, I was clicking on some
Yes.
button. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah. So yes, this is something which each one of us faced, to maybe a different extent and different proportions, depending upon wherever they were located and whatever were the demographic and the kind of parent and student sample we had around us. But definitely this has been running through. So I think it will be a major priority for me as a school leader, and I think for each one of us to again rebuild that trust deficit. Crisis will come and go, and again, as I said in the last point, that who can guarantee this is going to be the last one? But I am sure there was something missing, and our bonds were not strong enough. So at least we can do is make them now strong enough so that next time when something happens, the systems do not crumble like that. And we are still holding hands through the crisis. So, okay, whatever happened did happen, but now I think each one of us should look forward to building the kinds of bonds which are which remain, let's say, largely unshakable by these kind of crises, which would definitely come and go. But the trust between the schools and the parent and the leadership and the student, all of us need to be on the same page. It has to be a we and not them and us. So this definitely is very strong on my mind. And yeah, it reminds me of the small thing, the Rahiman Dhaga Prem Ka. So that Prem Ka Dhaga didn't break, fortunately, thanks to all these wonderful leaders here and to endeavors like yours, Gaurav. We somehow saved it from breaking, but then there have been knots, small knots on this dhaga. So I am very keen on entangling them one by one. Delicately, we'll have to do that because we cannot afford this dhaga to break. So yeah, it will require a lot of endeavor and a lot of thought from our part to restore this thread of faith between all the stakeholders. I think that is very, very important and the basic tenet of an education system. And finally, last but not the least, the other day I just saw a post by you, Gaurav, regarding the SDGs, Sustainable Development Goals. And I am not somebody who's very active on social media, especially to my opinions. I rather keep them to myself. But then there are some things when you just cannot refrain. So I did comment on that because they've been on my mind for quite some time. Ever since this has taken up, I've always been thinking how to incorporate and to what extent. There are some SDGs which definitely schools have been taking up. But then there are so many more. How can we and to what extent can we incorporate them into our education system? Is there something which is big on my mind? And now with the pandemic and with the NEP, which also comes into force, let's say this year itself, it reminds me of a triple point. I am from a science background, so we have this triple point where for any substance, the solid, liquid, and the gaseous states coexist. And it is very interesting to see what temperature would be that. So for me, it's like a confluence of, the SDGs, the NEP, and the schools. And then let's see that where are we going to arrive at that confluence and what is going to come out of it. I am very curiously looking forward to it. It's like a Samudra Manthan, and we'll have lots and lots coming out of it. And of course, we've got an entire series lined up, and I'm sure there will be more. And this is just the month of Jan. So of course, we do expect a lot of brainstorming. So the good, the bad, the ugly, we're prepared for everything. But I am watching out for that Amrit pot finally when that comes out. Yes. So that is where I have my eyes on. And with this, I would give a pause to my words. That thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. From very, very valid and pertinent points, I must say, and must compliment you. I've been looking through them. And I have few, as I said, few top of the mind questions, which possibly I'll reserve for the last. But having said this, I think your point on the trust deficit, to me, is a bang on point. I mean, that's something that was an undercurrent. People somehow really missed it. At the moment it hit them badly, then they felt, oh my God, where did we go wrong? And I'm sure that a lot of very, I think, proactive leaders like yourself, Gautam is here, and a lot of them, I'm sure you are taking that congruence of that fact. And people who will really invest in that. And I was asking one more question on IPN, which I recently did, that how many school leaders or say principals usually involve the parent body while they're working on their annual AOPs, for that matter, which is their annual operating plan for a school. I'm sure there are a parent body, which certainly we should be taking into confidence. Not a progressive school does, but then I'm sure it should be a norm rather than an exception. I believe that's the way I see it. But having said this, some wonderful points. One last point, which I felt, which you mentioned, which is very pertinent, and that the younger one will actually surprise you with the pace with they adopt things. That's a wonderful point. I mean, my two young daughters, they are so adapt to now these online classes. And I said, one is 6 and the other one is 8. The 6th one beautifully knows that when to put her audio piece off and when she has to put her video off. She wonderfully knows that when to, the example, if I'm barging into her room, she'll absolutely like a pro. I mean, I call them pros. They know how to, Dad, you are in my room. My class is going on. Please move out. And and then she's saying by putting everything on mute and video off. And I wish I had that same grace when when they come around me, because I yell at them, leave out the room because I'm into a meeting, for that matter. So I think there's a lot of things which you can learn from them, no two ways about it. And they are far more adaptive to all this, these changes, as you mentioned. Fantastic points, I must say. Last but not the least, I welcome Ms. Palak Tiwari. Over to you, Palak.
Hi, good evening, everybody. I think almost of the points have been covered by my fellow speakers, and maximum was psychosocial and mental points. So I think I would now like to speak on more of academics rather than, because they are beautifully covered by each of them. So the first thing, I have developed, as a priority for Little Kingdom chain of schools, Kangaroo Kids Gwalior and Billabong Gwalior. These are the schools that I am handling. And the first thing that I've done is I've upgraded the, tech platforms. And because what I could learn out of this epidemic and, so much that was creating chaos, that unless we have a virtual ecosystem, it is very difficult for any of the stakeholder to, empower themselves and present themselves, at the best what they can. Because I feel that this is the time when technology is coming before pedagogy for school fraternity. So before my teachers to get trained on pedagogy, I have made sure that I do a spade work with them for 15 days only on the technology, as I have upgraded the entire system. So when I say teachers, I look forward for any kind of learner. So educator, children, and also the parents. So we work as a team, and I have tried that I can train my educators, my learners, and my parents to create breakout rooms. They have their meeting codes. They can go in different classes, check what's happening. This was essential because my heads have, they had a habit in the physical schools, because we have n number of schools, and it becomes very difficult for us to understand. If I'm in Jabalpur, I can't handle Gwalior like that. So, how they inform us, we have a very specific, educators record and teaching learning process sheets. So any head who visits any class gives us, those 21 points and what was the teacher's performance. The teacher is also aware about those 21 points that we are going to cover. So there is no judgment, but we are just trying to map how beautifully each educator is, discovering a new herself or himself. So firstly, working on the virtual ecosystem and training them for the same. Then coming to the pedagogy. Yes, post-COVID, a lot of things have changed. I consider that we will not go back to the old normal, because in country like India, if it rains heavily, it is a holiday. At least in Madhya Pradesh, I know it becomes a holiday, and you cannot, put your word to the collector or anybody saying that it actually, it's not affecting. Children are safe when they come to school. But so I think this platform is going to be there, normal. And so if suppose, even if physical school starts, and suppose there is a holiday, we can anytime shift to the virtual platform. So I have strengthened that. Also, training is very important. So pedagogical upgradation or whatever has been the add-on, we have worked on it. And because we are starting in Madhya Pradesh, we have to start school from 1st of April, whether we get permission to do it virtually or physically. So the new sessions will go on from 1st of April. In Jabalpur, that is a decision. I am not aware about any other city. So my children very beautifully go in the breakout rooms and they do their, PBL, as Gautam was mentioning that, we're going to work a lot on project-based learning, and he mentioned that real life connect is very important. So that is what we've been already doing. And there's a very beautiful thing that I would like to share for every school leader here, that when Little Kingdom classes take place, so in the evenings, we have 5, we have identified, each teacher finds out 5 learners. They are going to concentrate and, evaluate or assess. They are pre-informed. So we have peer learners. So teachers are not the ones who take the class. They educate these 5 learners a day prior, and they are supposed to take the class. And the teacher is a facilitator. So teacher tries to join the dots, and obviously they need some push-up, some, make sure that everybody is engaged. And during that time when the class is happening, she concentrates on other 5 learners whom she is going to evaluate or assess the next day. So this is how we cover each and every child. And because I have been very clear that child should not be judged and the report card should not be given away like that. So we have a very, very extensive system of giving each child, at least 3 chances for each activity. So in this course, what happens, and I've seen the change, that children feel the privilege of becoming a teacher and they own that responsibility. So now I have some children, when I enter the class, they would treat me as, one of the member, and they would ask me questions that, are you aware, how do we do measurements on a scale, on a centimeter scale? How would you read that? If you're entering the class, that means that for their class, you should be prepared. They are so much aware of it that, they a day prior, you should have everything that their class needs. Otherwise, the way our teachers react is the same way my children react. So also I have, built up a connection with the parents, as Pooja had mentioned. So we have parenting sessions quite often, in which I have tried to understand what is the virtual infrastructure that my parents are able to provide. And I have a 2-year plan that each of my learner must have a proper virtual infrastructure at home. And obviously in school, we have already prepared it. Expectation of the parent, of the educator, in context to the learning outcomes. Because I'm very sure that each of us map the learning outcome for each class. So how will one stakeholder help us if we talk about, a growth of a child? Growth and glow of a child will only come if the child is at home and the parent is able to cooperate with us. So we have tried to understand the expectation of the parent, of the teacher, and also we have put forward how we look at things. And why are we looking at things like that? One thing was very important, because I'm sure that Pooja will support me in this, that in Madhya Pradesh, people are not ready to understand that tech accessibility is not a want anymore, it is a need. So the kind of parents that we cater to, we need to talk to them to make them understand that this is the new normal, and you will have to provide them with laptops. Mobiles won't suffice for a long time, because it is again affecting the child. So in context to all these expectations, virtual infrastructure and need, we have planned out our strategy for the year 2021. We are working on visible thinking routines. So according to Harvard study, there are 180 numbers, but for Little Kingdom and Kangaroo and Billabong, we have marked at least 7 of them. And we have already, we have started working on it. So the teachers were trained, and so any class that opens up, is with either a tug of war or something wherein there is a lot of discussion that children do, so that they understand and they can put forward their words. Because now it is we are not very sure that all of them will be able to meet at the same place, same time. So to be connected, we have tried to, as project-based learning, we have tried to involve these points also. We have PMIs, plus minus an interesting fact, which we end up with, and they're habitual of it. As we were talking about SDG goals, I'm very proud to tell you that, from pre-nursery to 8th standard, all my school covers, books, are SDG goals. Because we had very clearly mapped it last year. I am associated with UN agencies also because of my previous work. So I knew that I wanted to concentrate on it. And this year we could actually, introduce them to it. Yes, all that was planned physically, but certain things we could do, for like we have been talking about climate change. And so there is a particular thing that we tried and worked out in young, small primary, pre-primary and primary. We made sure that we tell them that, any fruit that you eat, you can preserve the seeds. And we have plenty of plants ready at Little Kingdom to be given to the educators and their families. Once the children start coming back, though they provide us, when it's a birthday or something. So these plants have come just with, preserving those fruits that they had eaten, and they write, what date they had planted. And that is how they give. So these are the things that they've already started doing in the previous year. So I think that 2020 could teach a lot to us. And then a very important thing that I've been seeing is coding. A lot of parents rushing towards coding, and they feel that if they are not putting their child for course like coding, then it's the end of the world. So during our parent-teacher session, we try and address them that in Little Kingdom, we have inculcated all the, essentials of coding from preschool in our ICT itself. So anybody who studies in Little Kingdom may not join a coding class because it's a formal education, and that's also a part of NEP, that you must make coding as one of the so we are already working on it. I think it's been months that we have received the document, and now we as school leaders must have a plan. So these were certain things that we have planned for 2021 at priority. More emphasis on the stream challenges so that we have children with effective communication. We are going to make them literate on financial aspect, So for preschoolers, my teachers have very beautifully designed a concept, which I would love to share with all the school leaders. And I think you can also do it if you like. So it's, we have 3 jars. One is spending, one is sharing, and one is saving. So, because we are also people who are going to enforce responsible citizenship amongst our learners. So, when you talk about spending, they get pocket money or they get coins, so they can make 3 jars. And when they talk about sharing, in the primary classes, we can always talk about tax that we have to pay. So it's a sharing that we do. Why to introduce this concept in 9, 10, 11, 12? We can obviously do it from very, early ages, and we must do it because I really believe that education is not about mark sheets. It's all about how you handle life. And they learn this at school. And then saving. So this is something that we, are doing with our kids. Yes, we're going to talk about health and safety post-COVID celebrations, because now how we're going to celebrate any event, the pattern have changed. People message you with the e-cards. So we are less on paper, and we are less on people also. They tell you that, your wishes are invited only virtually. So even that is good. So these are the things that have to become a part of our life. And we need to educate our learners that this is the new normal and this is how it should be, so that you keep in mind the spending, sharing, and saving. It is interlinked that we keep on talking about, integrated education. So from one particular activity, you can actually go on to so many subjects. Then professions have changed. We need to educate our children. It's not the time like, till 10th standard, we actually didn't know for what purpose we are here. children now are much aware about it in the early ages, what they want to do, how they want to do, you know, what are their interest areas. So I think how professions have changed, because I was just, we are on the recruitment for the next year. And I was mentioning, you know, that next recruitment, we need to make it sure that anybody who does not have a laptop and a Wi-Fi network, we cannot hire them. So these are certain things that have come as a change, and certain professions are actually obsolete now. We need to make sure that even if our children had interest in them, how they can maintain and, you know, push forward themselves and navigate the uncertainty now. This is all that I have done academically, because I handle the academic part of all my schools. So I could talk more zestfully about this area. And my last aspiration, you know, from 2021 is that, because my schools are already on hybrid learning past 8 months, with very good attendance. I would not call it 95% of attendance, but very effective attendance. We are able to make a difference. And so I feel that, you know, from a hybrid model, I would like to, you know, climb the ladder to embedded learning. So this is how I think journey for Little Kingdom and all my schools would be from, you know, at the priority list.
Thank you, Palak. I know it's very difficult to be the last speaker, I'm sure, because more or less all the points gets covered, and then you are left with more or less trying to do the find the one which I may possibly add a very different dimension to. But nevertheless, you did a fantastic job, and I'm sure there are a few good initiatives and few things which you are doing, which will go a long way. I understand Jabalpur or even Gwalior for that matter. These are places which have, to me, I mean, I went to both of those cities. I have been to both of them. They have a very, very different cultural outlook as well. Gwalior is far more like a Bundelkhand, less of a Bundelkhand, but Jabalpur is a very, very pure Bundelkhand region of UP, in fact, and MP put together. So fantastic. Thank you. Thank you for, in fact, thank you to all of you for your perspective. And I now quickly open the house for Q&A. So let's take up question and answers. Dear leaders present out here, you can virtually put up a show of hand and we can help you unmute, and then you can ask your, and not just the question, as I've mentioned always, that please, if you have an observation to share, given the points which were shared, we'll be happy to listen to your observations as well. Yeah. So virtual show of hand, and obviously we just have another, what, 15 minutes remaining. We are at 6:13 by my clock. So we'll take a few questions or an observation. I'm happy to listen in, and then we can, yeah. So we have a couple of, Sharmila ji, first you, and then Miss Chitra. Yeah.
So good evening, Gaurav, and good evening to all the leaders present here. I just have an observation to make, and also how I connect with Pooja's, you know, sharing, where she spoke about the trust factor.
Surely.
I think has been deeply impacted, and probably I missed out in my presentation, but I really want to highlight that is, I think, will be one of our most important priority for all school leaders, because I am in Noida. And you know how the culture of Noida is. There is a plethora of schools, but we have been fortunate to keep the flock together, to keep our parents together. But somewhere down the line, something has gone wrong, you know, and so that there is a trust deficit. Some blow. I'm very honest to share that this is going to be a task for us. So thank you to Pooja for bringing it up on this platform. Thank you.
Okay, Sharmila ji, no, absolutely. This is where we want not just your question, please share your observations as well. Chitra ji, over to you.
Good evening. Thank you very much for such a wonderful session. And, you know, like this sharing of experience is the best learning for all of us in this pandemic. Yes, I agree with a few points. As I said, that trust factor, of course, is there. The younger ones are more adaptive. because we kept on trying on different platforms, right? Google, Zoom, etc., etc. But the younger ones, quickly they learned. And in fact, whenever the teachers were in trouble, they were the ones to share. You can do this one. These are the factors which are available. When we keep looking for some picture or something, go to media and go ahead and you will get it, right? And not only that, this group learning and project-based learning, right? Breakout rooms have helped a lot. In fact, very especially in music, they have composed music with the different instruments and things like that. And trust factor, yes. The parents who were totally 100% dependent on school, just because we ask fees or something, most of them have become anti-thinking. We are not letting their children learn. How can even, in fact, today one parent told, ma'am, this is going to affect your future strength. This is what he said. And he also told, my child has been studying for last 12 years. I said, all the more reason to support the management. Since you are a part of the school for last 12 years, don't you think at this time of, like when we really need your help, you should have come forward and you should have stood with us to support other parents, right? But really, very, very wonderful learning. Thank you very much, all the speakers. Thanks a lot for sharing this experience. Thank you,
Thank you,
Gaurav.
Chitra ji. Thank you, Ji. Thank you very much. Okay, so I think one of the same chord which touched everyone's, I would think, dukti rag jisko bol sakte hain hum log, wo hai trust deficit wala. But having said this, I think that's a but just to share one, and I think Gautam can then chip in, because Gautam, and even for that matter, I would love to have Palak's view as well, because they are part of the management side as well. So how they have handled this, number one, possibly you may have a little, even Sushma ji, if you would love to quickly add a little dimension to this, we love to hear from all three of you, in fact. Pooja has made that observation already.
Yeah, that was a very important point, and thank you, Pooja ji, for highlighting that there was or there is a current trust deficit, so to say. But I would say this, that any trust deficit can be mitigated only and only with dialogue. And as soon as the whole classes became online, the first hurdle that came to us was that screen time nahi dena hai. The screen time is bad. So to educate parents of what is good screen time and bad screen time, and then we realized that more and more dialogue we start with the parent. So it kind of started off with a parent education initiative, because there was so much of rumor and so much of misinformation going on WhatsApp and various social media, and a lot of it is instigated by a group of parents. So 90 or 95% of your parents are the parents who understand that yes, the school is making the best effort possible. It is the 5% which will be in any industry, anything that you do, which would kind of try and pull the rest of them. So it's all about reaching out to the 95 to kind of keep the strength on your side. We started off with initiatives wherein class-wise, our school leaders, coordinators, and principals spoke to parents, tried to understand what were the challenges, and we involved them in the decision making. So when we were forming the online timetable, there were inputs that came in from the parents which were taken. So that participation added on ownership for them towards the school, and I think that has gone a long way for us. But of course, the kind of work that teachers have done also kind of says, if your content is not good, just the dialogue will not help. So the content has to be very good. So teachers upgraded themselves. They were giving quality education. Parents saw that. And by the second quarter, this had gone down. The trust deficit went down drastically. There was only a handful of them who are still kind of saying that, online classes are not good, or why are you asking for fee and all of those things. But touch wood for us, and I speak for the entire teaching fraternity, everybody chipped in, worked as a team, and with dialogue, with delivery, I think we've overcome that. And I think 21, yes, it is not only 21, I think this is going to be an ongoing thing now, because once the government, the media, everybody has kind of set this India Pakistan kind of thing between parents and schools, it is not going to go away so easily. You will have to constantly, it's an uphill task. Every year you will have to do this dialogue. You will have to kind of make them understand. And I think that's the only way that we can win this.
Yeah, initially with us also, because of the groupism and the media and the parent association and what we observe, because this parent association is quite active. So we realize that there are few people who are not even parents, and they instigate others. And what happens is that the genuine parent suffers. So initially there was a rift, but gradually when teachers started talking, there was an aggression and they were angry. By the time we were open the school, so they were directed to me. I mean, I said, if anyone has any problem, ask them to visit school and see me in person so that we can have a discussion. And trust me, we had hardly 5-6 parents who came up to me. So, that discussion and then convincing them, and we did not make a separate timetable for, online classes. We made up a 5-period and 9-period alternate day, and they were requesting for more classes because they felt that children are wasting their time. So we devised on a way when after 3 periods we gave a long break, then it didn't work out, children are not joining back. Then again the idea came up, it is from the parent side, after every period you give them 5-10 minutes break so that they can just relax their eyes and then they come back. So that screen time issue was with very less number of parents, not with majority of them. Rather, most of them were happy, and touchwood, we did not face so much of challenge, for the fees and the argument and the dropouts. Yes, there are genuine cases. We understood, they submitted applications, we handled. But it's not that there was a lot of trust issue. Initially, of course, things were so haywire and things were highlighted on that. And because government took a stand on it, so gradually it fizzled out. And finally, they realized, of course, they wanted time, which we gave them ample time. They bought the time, we did it. But there were few genuine cases we understood, but there were few who were doing it deliberately. So we really had to be a bit firm with them. And then things came out well. But now everybody is quite satisfied. It is not that there is a, trust issues. Yes, 5-10% everywhere. You do anything, there will be a dissatisfaction. But by and large, and yes, teachers were the ones who were talking to them regularly, one-on-one basis. There was no groupism kind of a thing. So they were asked to talk one-on-one. And in case anyone has a problem, they can always contact us so that we can deal one-on-one. So every class teacher was dealing regularly. So that way, that communication has bridged up that thing. So that was thing which worked out. So there was no hue and cry and a lot of dissatisfaction, because I did not face that kind of a heat once we opened up. Few parents, 2, 3, 4 parents, we had a discussion. Okay. They gave their point of view, I gave my point of view. So at the end, we landed up to a situation where they were convinced. So
it was mostly, I think, being a parent. So let me bring in a dimension here, and being someone who have been into this field of communication, if I may say, there's a very interesting way human beings behave. They have a very different individual behavior, and they have a very different group behavior. And usually it was actually driven by a herd mentality. So basically, I could see that when you're in a parent group, you have a very different way of looking at it. However, when the teacher or say a management is speaking to you one-on-one, maybe you have a very different look at it. Maybe you want to be maybe right at both the places for that matter, right? So that's the way I personally feel that's what it was, a communication problem. And I think Gautam pointed out beautifully that it's only resolved through dialogue. Nothing can be, subsided here, because this was actually, I remember it was July when at IPN also, all our conversation was largely about this. It was brewing up in a very bad way. Alak, what's your take? How have you handled it?
I think it's the similar way, but I will not call deficit of trust, because we did not face it actually. Yes, one thing that we could do is our parents talk to other parents for us. So we have that kind of relationship. I think we work on a legacy for 31 years, and that is what the family has given. So we have a very comfortable relationship. Yes, the entire staff is involved, and they keep talking, and we try and solve any problem that comes to us. But we did not have any trust issues. We have parents talking for us. So parents talking to other parents for the school. I think we are doing good.
Okay, so I think then I should compliment you that you have done your CRM well. In my MBA jargon, we used to say customer relationship management. And then you have built in a very good advocacy piece, which is your parents are your advocates for that matter. Fantastic.
You know what, Gaurav, I would really like to tell you that my mother-in-law, she started it from 5 students, and now we have 6,000 students. And she can actually remember, parents, grandparents, even now. So if you have that kind of relationship, and that is what I think I and Udit have taken in the legacy, we are very much available to the parents. Yes, we do take firm steps at times, but we understand that parents cannot be creating problems unless they are having a problem.
Correct.
So we try and understand. It was a very clear thought from our mother that, you have to, this is what is Little Kingdom is known for, that we give personal attention not only to the child, but also to the parent. And everybody needs attention. As you said, if a parent is in front of us, he or she reacts some other way, and if it's in the herd, may react in some, and
Correct.
may speak for everyone. That's okay, but that's acceptable.
Fantastic. So that's where we also got to our speaker's perspective today. Yeah. So I will now, we'll quickly take up, I think we do not have time for another question because we are just, 3 minutes away. So I will quickly say a big thank you to all my speakers. Firstly, thank you very much for your valuable time. Thank you, Dr. Mandal. Thank you, Gautam. Thank you, Pooja, and thank you, Palak. So thank you very much, and thank you everyone who was tuned in with us today. Good to see a few old faces coming back and joining the conversation. I know for sure webinars and all this has been very, very fatigued for that matter. But I'm so glad that having not met any one of you physically, really could meet all of you on a very, very regular. Induji, you have a question, an observation to make? Induji? Yeah, Induji, you were saying something?
Yes. I said we look forward to webinars. So I don't know why you take this word webinar fatigued. We are not. In fact, so refreshing. I just hit my home and this girl, your PR girl, she called me up that we have a webinar today. I said, no, it's on Friday. And then I was panting into my room to be here.
Oh, so nice of you. So nice of you.
I'm sure
so nice
every
Thank you very much, Induji. But yes, absolutely. I'm sure we need to remain relevant. And having said this, if we are relevant, thank you very much. You find it that way. So I truly value. Okay, so we call it a day. Anyone with any observation? If you have one final shot at it, I could see Deep Khareji also chipping in. Okay, Deep Khareji, last observation on your part, then we'll take a leave.
Mr. Gaurav, always good to have with you and the people you choose to let them speak. Wonderful array of stars. And I know Pooja Pantri ma'am in a different relationship. I belong to the same school. She worked for quite some time. Thank you, ma'am, for giving the Jodamal what it is today. Wonderful hard work and perspective using right now. I can say so much, but I just remember one small thing. When we talk about blended learning, I have a humble request that let us blend not only the technology, but the real life. Somehow, this is my very favorite point, which I have spoken at almost all the forums, that let us blend our education with the real life, daily life experiences, not only with the technology. Without our tries, each child is going to get blended with it. Please understand. We don't have to make any efforts for that. What we have to do, which has been lost out in a long run of getting marks, is the real life learning. Let children make sense what they speak, what they write. Let us give sensible education. My favorite example is that each one of our children knows what is the meaning of red, yellow, and blue, green lights. But do they stop their vehicle at the red light, including us? So we know we have knowledge, but we don't have a sense of it. People say, Ma'am Pooja Pandi, science teacher, that the speed of light is 3.3 into 10 power 8 meter per second. It doesn't make a sense to me. I'm a teacher of physics. I say 3 lakh kilometer per second. That makes a sense. 10 to the power 7 makes no sense to me. When I see one crore of trees, it makes immediately goosebumps everywhere. So my humble request to all of us is, let us give education which is sensible, which is realizable in the daily life. So let us blend our education with the real life. I'm looking for that blending which has gone off long back. Everything is not notebooks or the examinations. That's only humble request I have to everybody sitting and listening to me.
Thank you, Deepji, for the introduction of both the leaders. Deepji is the principal of Jodhamal Public School in Jammu. Miss Indu is the promoter at Bhupinder International School in Patiala. Miss Chitra, I believe, is in Bhopal with International Public School, and Miss Sharmila was principal of Billabong International School in Noida. So,
Gauravji, I'm sorry, Gauravji, the word Bundelkhand is very close to my heart because I did my BSc, MSc from Jhansi only.
oh my
Even
God,
12 from Jhansi. So I spent my complete education in Jhansi. So the Shivpuri is very close to my heart. Jabalpur, I remember Bheda Ghat is all. I'm traveling into the past by listening to all these great things.
Fantastic.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, all my
Happy to be with
speakers.
you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, each one of you who had joined in. Fantastic conversation. Totally loved it. Some wonderful points, and I'm sure this will make it to our top 10 priority list as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Gautam, thank you. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye. Stay safe.
Gaurav, thank you. Thank you, everyone.